Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street. So, as you may know, recently, about a week ago, I did a video highlighting my top 5 favorite horror films from one of the greatest years in horror movie history, 1980. And to my immediate surprise, it seemed like a lot of people wanted me to continue this series and do a top 5 video for every year this decade. And I think that sounds fun. So, without further ado, here are my top 5 favorite horror films from the year 1981. Number 5, The Evil Dead. I don't even think I need to say anything here. It's The Evil Dead. The series is quite possibly more popular now than it ever was. It obviously deserves a spot on this list. In fact, most are probably disappointed that it's not higher.
Hey, what'd you do that for? It was just getting good.
I just don't want to hear it anymore, that's all.
The movie's plot is super generic and full of tropes. A group of teens go to a cabin and subsequently are attacked by evil forces within the woods after accidentally reading from the Book of the Dead. Yeah, doesn't sound that exciting, but then you actually see the movie and realize that it's all about the presentation. Raimi's camera work is truly masterful. One of the most impressive shots is where the darkness comes from out of the trees and begins to chase people, knocking down any obstacle that gets in its way. The hyperkinetic gore is also something of a kick in the teeth. It comes out of nowhere, and the overall cheesy and goofy nature of the film causes you to not see this abrupt change in tone coming. I mean, for Christ's sake, the rules of this universe are total dismemberment is the only way to kill the zombies. I'm sorry, I mean deadites. The real thing that blows my mind about The Evil Dead is that Sam Raimi was only 22 years old when he made this movie. It's insane. The man was truly born to become a filmmaker, and Bruce Campbell was truly born to become a movie star. I mean, look at that jaw. It's impeccable. Yep, The Evil Dead is great. It will always be great. It's actually my favorite movie of the entire series. If you haven't seen it, well, I don't even know what you're doing watching this video.
Hey, come here, I want to show you something.
Number 4, The House by the Cemetery.
Bob!
Yes, Daddy?
Keep away from the door!
Yep, I will.
Lucio Fulci's Freudian haunted house gothic horror masterpiece. In typical fashion, this entry into the Gates of Hell trilogy oozes with atmosphere. In some ways, you get a sense that Fulci was trying hard to make a more respectable film than some of his previous movies. The camera work here is careful, creating an eerie, gothic, Hammer-style mood, as well as a sense of polish to it. Fulci has had an incredibly varied career, to say the least. His popularity in the horror genre came about 25 years into his work. It's funny, a lot of times you see the opposite. A young filmmaker gets some success within the genre and then tries to unsuccessfully pivot out of it in fear of being typecast in a certain sense. Fulci, on the other hand, had years of, well, let's be honest, mediocrity under his belt, with an extensive filmography that stretched from comedies to westerns to children's films. And once the man finally whiffed international success, he leaned into it with full force. The Cemetery is very much a classic case of Fulci's style. There's little in the way of story. A family moves into a haunted house where something sinister took place years ago, bad, bloody things start to happen, and the movie is wrapped up with a bizarre twist that is completely up to viewers' interpretation.
Show him you can act like a Freudstein. You know some other guest is surely destined to drop in.
This movie, much like a lot of Fulci movies, is about mood and atmosphere. The man developed a style of his own that speaks to fans of the horror genre in a very deep way. It's hard to pinpoint, as a Fulci purist, what it is that you adore about his movies so much. I think most of the time it just comes down to his style. I love his style of storytelling. His movies are always so unquestionably his. Even without knowing the movie, you can usually spot a Fulci film within just a couple of shots. The House by the Cemetery is a masterpiece. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Not only blood, his voice. I can hear it now. I hear it. I hear it everywhere.
Number 3, Ghost Story.
What are you?
This seems to be a bit of a forgotten classic. In fact, I even forget about it sometimes. But Ghost Story is a reference this film and a half. It's a top-notch throwback to classic horror. There are many things here to enjoy, from its cast of Hollywood legends like Fred Astaire and Douglas Fairbanks Jr., its immensely creepy special effects by Rick Baker, and its brilliant story courtesy of legendary author Peter Straub. The story centers around the Chowder Society, a group of upper-class aging men tied together by a dark secret from their past. Once a week, the men meet up to have a few drinks and tell creepy ghost stories. Across the state, one of the men's sons is murdered by a creepy ghost woman thing. When the man's other son comes home to see his estranged father for his brother's funeral, he finds himself in a relationship with the same odd woman. I won't ruin the twist for you guys because it's really just a flick that you should see for yourself. This is a classic by every conceivable measure. It's a throwback to the 40s old dark house format, which was so popular at the time. Much like the Golden Age actors playing the leads, it seems that the past is the central theme of this entire movie altogether. From the style of the filmmaking to the actors to the story itself, the whole movie seems to be about reliving those old glory days and leaving the ghosts of the past alone. Ghost Story is both classy and still possesses the ability to be scary at times. Plus, you see a guy's ding-dong in the opening scene. Can't beat that! Number 2, The Beyond. Often considered to be Lucio Fulci's best film, this Lovecraftian cosmic horror masterpiece is guaranteed to give you at least a couple of messed up dreams after seeing it. I feel like I say this a lot with Fulci films, but this is a movie that you watch solely for the experience, not a movie that you watch to understand. Much like a David Lynch film, the movie is purposefully confusing at times, weaving a dream-like narrative where horrible things happen seemingly for no reason. The movie opens at the Seven Doors Hotel in 1927. We briefly see a painter and practicer of the occult being hunted down by a gang of angry villagers who crucify him in the basement of the hotel. Unknowingly, the villagers have just participated in a demonic ritual from the Book of Ebon and have opened one of the 7 doors to hell. Flash forward to the present day where Catriona MacCall buys the hotel and boom! Scary ghosts, zombies, blind women, and man-eating tarantulas. Like I said at the top of this, seems like most Fulci purists have The Beyond as their #1 favorite film. It's close, it's for sure up there, but I typically have this one in the #3 spot. Now, I will say that when this movie is good, it's real good. It's really Fulci at his best. I just find there to be a little bit too much filler at times. The movie kind of does this thing where it's got this nightmarish David Lynch flavor to it, but then it just kind of drops back to reality for a scene or two. I don't know, I guess I'm probably describing that horribly.
It's very nice, though. Very, very interesting.
My favorite scene in this movie for sure is the zombie attack at the hospital. This is really the only other movie besides Zombie to have true Fulci zombies in it, and if you watch my channel, you know what I mean when I say that. The Fulci zombie is my favorite. They're gross and decaying and move around like they're under some sort of hypnosis, sometimes not even opening their eyes. I find this incarnation of the zombie to be truly the most frightening. You really can picture that these things are just soulless motorized instincts, but now I'm ranting. If this were any other year, The Beyond would probably take the #1 spot. It really is just that good. #1, An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, be serious, would you?
Oh god, I love this movie so much. So much so that I'm actually afraid that I'm going to do it a disservice here by trying to talk about it. First and foremost, screw you if you don't adore this movie. Seriously, screw you. An American Werewolf in London is a cinematic masterpiece. John Landis directed this film flawlessly, with all the care and respect to the classic Universal werewolf films, with also creating a genre oddity all of its own.
I'm a werewolf.
A werewolf.
It's not only the best werewolf movie, it's also one of the best genre movies in general. The movie is about a preppy American backpacker named David and his friend who get attacked by a werewolf one night while strolling through the dark moors of London. After David awakens in the hospital, he learns that his friend died in the attack, and then he subsequently shacks up with a nurse from the hospital, and then begins to transform into a man-eating werewolf by night, and is haunted by the souls of his victims by day.
I'm sorry I'm upsetting you, David, but you don't understand what's going on.
The movie's climax of a werewolf rampaging through the streets of Piccadilly Square is truly one of the greatest moments in horror history. An American Werewolf in London blends a unique style of comedy and horror in equal parts. Rick Baker's showstopper of a werewolf transformation still looks amazing even by today's standards. The soundtrack is also worth noting, as all the songs featured in the movie have Moon in the title. Quirky, yet brilliant. The cast is also spot on, especially Griffin Dunn in the role of Jack.
You see anything? No. Sounds far away. Not far enough. Come on. Jack! What? Where are we going? I don't know. I'll tell you when we get there. Okay, because... Oh!
You really scared me, you shithead. You gonna help me up or what?
This movie is a 10 out of 10 every single day of the week. If you haven't seen it, you really must.
Did you hear that?
I heard that.
What was it?
Could be a lot of things.
Well, that's it, guys. That is my top 5 favorite horror films from the year 1981. Make sure that you leave a comment below letting me know what your top 5 horror films from the year 1981 are. Also, make sure that you follow 7th Street Productions on Facebook and on Instagram. Check out our Patreon page. Shout out to Harold Webb again, who is just the best patron of all time. And, keep an eye out for more videos and some of our original content here on the channel. Until next time, guys.